Rainbows Are Circles, episode 14. Today we're talking about spiritual alchemy, or the art of inner transformation, with Sherwin Ng. We'll also discuss what the coronavirus can teach us, how we can use this time in quarantine to really learn about ourselves, and practical steps we can take to discover our purpose in life. This episode is chock full of super helpful advice, tools, wisdom, so I can't wait to share it with you, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Rainbows Are Circles, a podcast exploring human potential and everyday wonder. What possibilities open up for us when we explore life with optimism, curiosity, and an open mind? Join me, Julie Malari, as we wake up to wonder and speak with inspirational guests on the topics of personal development, alternative health, and even magical, mystical, yet often misunderstood practices. Are you ready? Welcome, everyone. If you're looking for a simple, effective way to improve your health, energy levels, and overall sense of well-being, I encourage you to make some time, even just 10 minutes a day, for a yoga practice. Yoga has been scientifically proven to help relieve stress and anxiety, increase strength and flexibility, lower blood pressure, and improve sleep quality, just to name a few benefits. I recently started sharing some free yoga and meditation practices online that you can access at your convenience. So far, we have classes to help with neck and shoulder tension, another class to help relieve stress and anxiety, and another to help loosen stiffness and tightness in the spine. I'll slowly add to this video library over time, and I truly hope they benefit your body, mind, and spirit. You can find them on rainbowsarecircles.com or on my YouTube channel, which is also called Rainbows Are Circles. And now, let's jump into today's episode. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Rainbows Are Circles. I'm very excited to have our guest Sherwin Ng on the show today. He is a very highly respected master level spiritual teacher of spiritual alchemy based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Sherwin is the founder and director of House of Kite, a school of self-discovery, self-empowerment, and awakening to your higher purpose. He is the author of Life on Earth Mastery, Protocols to Transcend Fate and Manifest Your Purpose. And he was also awarded the Alchemist of the Year by Yoga Life magazine just this year in 2020. So I first learned about Sherwin from my friend Lisa Chen, who probably starting maybe a few years ago would tell me every now and then that she was going to Malaysia to study with a spiritual teacher. And I always thought, wow, who is this? Who is Lisa going to study with that she's traveling across the world for? And that she's going, not just once, but kind of on a regular basis. And she gifted me your book, Sherwin. She gifted me your book, Life on Earth Mastery. And as soon as I read the first page, I was like, oh, okay. Since then, she shared your Facebook with me, and I participated in your New Moon Circle this morning, and it was just so powerful. Your meditations were so powerful, your words, your voice, and I get it now. I get why she wants to study with you so much. There is just a wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you have, and so thank you for coming on the show to share some of that with us today.
Thank you for having me. Oh, thank you for your kind words. Sometimes I worry that I don't live up to expectations.
Well, I think Lisa would beg to differ. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like, whoa, that's a lot. So, Sherwin, I'd love to just start out by hearing your story. How did you become, I guess, interested in energy healing? How did you become interested in spiritual alchemy? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, basically, it was. I remember since I was very young. When I was like 4 or 5, like the only thing that I could think about was becoming a monk. And yeah, and I brought this up to my parents a few times. And of course, they were quite horrified and brushed me off. And obviously, that didn't happen. So um, went into a normal life. Like going to kindergarten and school and all that, which was quite a struggle for me because I always knew that I did not fit in, nor was I supposed to fit in. And when I was like 13, 14, I experienced what I now know as a depression. So back then, we didn't have the words to understand what's happening. So it was like a depression, and I contemplated like suicide and all that. But of course, that spurred me on to learn, to understand what's really happening, and things like what happens after you die and all that. And yeah, so that was like the starting point of everything. And I've always been interested in like the occult, religion, and all that. I started reading astrology. I think it was when I was 8 or 10. So um, well, all those studies, but I still felt like something was missing, and yeah, so it was a lifelong journey, and until now, I guess now I feel like a little bit more settled. Things are a bit clearer for me, and I really did not expect teaching. My background is actually more in writing, creative writing, and all that, and I never thought that one day I would be speaking to so many people. Yeah.
Mm. Was there one experience that kind of shifted your perspective on life, or that kind of showed you this path that you're on
Mm.
today?
Not one big thing. I know some people have like for example a near death experience or like a big life shift, but I didn't really have that. So it was gradually over the years, like small shifts along the way. And I think one of the big episodes in my life was studying psychology in college. So that really opened up the whole world for me. I really started to understand like what it means to be human. I would describe that phase in life was like um, almost as if it was the first time that I started to see the world in color. Like prior to that, it always felt just black and white, lacking in flavor or in passion and all that feeling. So when I started to learn psychology, yeah, so color came into my life almost for the first time. I hope that makes sense.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah.
And you, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do, or the teachings that you offer people?
Oh, yes. So, another strange and unexpected thing because like a Chinese person living in Malaysia, but what I teach and the core of my reference study to the spiritual work is interestingly Egyptian alchemy. So most of the time, or rather in the early years, people ask me like why Egypt and all that, because there's not much that is fully understood, especially not much in Asia. So it took a lot of like educating and sharing the word what is alchemy all about, which is essentially a transformation of the self. The analogy of alchemy that is commonly known is like transforming base metal, like lead, into gold. So what it means for a person is transforming our fears and limitation, the heavy self, refining the self to become more refined and more. I wouldn't even say enlightened, but at least free from all those fears and more efficient and more effective as human beings being in this world. So that was how eventually the book came into shape.
And I read somewhere, I think on your website or your bio, that in a previous lifetime, you were you were an Egyptian, a king. Is that correct?
More like a priest. So I had quite
Okay.
many lifetimes as also like in spiritual teachings in Egypt as well.
Okay. Can you tell us
Mhm.
how? So I haven't done too much work with past lives, but
Yeah.
uh, how was that revealed to you?
So this the topic on past life is always a little bit tricky because it can go either way. So I always have this small disclaimer before I start talking about the topic, because a lot of times, like what I find with a lot of my clients in the past, like sometimes that people tend to want to escape from this life, so they project a certain illusion of a past life. So they say, like I'm having this problem now because of so and so past life, and so it almost becomes like a scapegoat or sort of a
Mm,
blame. Yeah. So I normally try to be very careful when I approach this subject. It's not as new age glamorous as it sounds, and and most of the time I don't encourage like people to go and look specifically for their past life, because whatever we whatever we need to know from the past, it will manifest in this lifetime anyway, because whatever lessons we haven't mastered or things we haven't fully dealt with, and ultimately one day we will all realize that there is no past or future, there is only this moment. But that's a story for another day. So anyway, so now going into the topic. um, um, I would say as you become more aware of who you are and more in touch with your feelings and truly start to develop that honest relationship with yourself. So naturally, all these memories or um, recollections will just gradually emerge like snippets of here and there. And it will also resonate very deeply because a lot of the old patterns will give you insight on patterns that are being repeated in this lifetime, like all the tendencies, all the likes and dislikes, and all the lessons that that I need to go through. So that was how eventually over the years, like bits and pieces started to emerge here and there, and not just in Egypt, of course, like many different places as well. And some lifetimes were male, some lifetimes were female, and so it was, and some were quite shocking, some were quite happy, and some was a bit traumatic. So many of my, I wouldn't say fondest, but the ones that the ones that I currently identify with most, it would be those in Egypt. Studying alchemy, teaching alchemy, going through initiations. So how that began, I think it was for 8 or 9 years ago, when I was studying with my energy healing teacher back then. So she brought us to Egypt, and it was from there that all these recollections started to come back, like really really fast. And even my teacher said back then that she had a vision when we were in one of the temples in the Komombo temple, and she turned to me and said, I foresee that you will also want to bring your students here. And I thought she had lost it, or she was like, no, don't be silly. Because at the time, I barely started with energy work, and I didn't teach yet even. So to even have the notion that one day I would bring my students here, it's like what? It was unimaginable. But 2 years ago, it finally happened. So went back to Egypt. So it actually took me a long time in between my first visit until I finally brought my students back to Egypt. Was 7 years, like literally 7 years. And prior to that, we've gone to other places like Glastonbury and Borneo, which is a bit nearer to Malaysia, and Croatia. But whereas for Egypt, I knew that I had to be fully prepared. And when I was ready, the signs will be there and it will happen effortlessly. So that was what happened, two years ago. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
The teachings that you offer now, are they based on what you've learned in those past lives, what you remember from those times?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bits and pieces, and then slowly try. Like there's also a lot of like research and experiment to make sure A, I'm not imagining it, and B, that it can yield results in this lifetime. So I normally have to try it out first, or get a few people to also try it out, and then when we see the results, okay, this is legit. And then we can really like, go deeper into it, because sometimes we also always have to be careful, especially in I would say I would be careful, like so that it's not coming from like some sort of egoic projection or from my own shadow that I'm unaware of, and all that. Yeah.
I'm sure that you have a lot of teachings to share. Is there one main thing that you want to help people with, or that you want to share with people or to teach people?
Yes, actually, even though I cover many topics, but they all have one common thread and purpose is basically transformation. I would really love for more people to realize that we are here on earth to learn and to grow, and B, literally we can be whatever we want to be. So we all have this destiny to fulfill, but that destiny is not a fixed thing. It is a constant process and journey, and it's really fun. Life is really fun on earth. It's it's not as serious and as worrisome as people think it to be. Of course, with what's happening now, it looks like everything is like dwindling and people are losing hope. But actually, I feel the opposite is true. And I know I'm rambling like nonstop. It's just like all coming out.
No, this is great.
um, if you ask like most of my regular students, we have been talking about this day from 3 years ago. Because I always say a time will come where we will all be forced to just sit down and be honest with ourselves and really manifest our purpose. and now is that day. Yeah, I just didn't think it will come so fast. That's to be honest. Yeah.
You're like, it's here already.
Yeah. It took me a few days to really like for it to sink in. Oh, this is the thing we've been talking about.
I wanted that's one of the main things I wanted to ask you about. So, there's a lot happening right now with the coronavirus outbreak, with people afraid, people losing their jobs, people dying.
Yeah.
Lots of uncertainty. And from one perspective, it's really heartbreaking and it's really challenging and it's really can be very depressing. But then there's kind of the other side, which you touched on briefly. Why do you think this is happening right now?
Yeah. So this is what we would call in terms of spiritual analysis, we call this a purification time. So purification means that the world and humanity as a collective is going through shall we say, a healing crisis. So healing crisis is when like you are your body is just purging out all the old toxins and just poisons and all those stuff that is no longer needed. So we are going through like a huge purging process, and I guess On the unconscious level, a lot of people resonate with this because of, about the toilet paper and all that. Yeah. So I mean, on the surface, it's bizarre. Why are people like hoarding toilet paper? But energetically, what's happening is we are literally purging. So I guess people feel the need for yeah,
More toilet paper.
yeah. Because logically it's like you can't eat toilet paper. It's really not that essential, but it's such a big deal out of it. So yeah, so we're going through the huge energetic and spiritual purging. So all those old structures and old belief systems and old blueprints are just really collapsing, falling apart, and dissolving. And as with all types of change in our world, or whether in our physical body, it is never comfortable. It is always uncomfortable. It is always unsettling. And of course, the greater the change, the more uncomfortable and the scarier it feels. So that's really what's happening now with humanity. All of us, and all of us are involved in this. As no one that is more advanced or more backward. Everyone's going through this as one body, because the whole earth is one body, and the whole of humanity is just one soul, one spirit. So collectively, we are going through this healing crisis, and I don't think we have reached the peak yet. So there's a little bit more to flush out, and then it will slowly start to taper down, and then we'll find like a middle ground for the what everyone's talking about, the new hashtag, which is new normal. So that is something I look forward to. It's just that now what we are going through is just difficult and a lot of times painful. And yes, a lot of people are also dying. So many souls have chosen this time, this very important time, to leave the physical world. And a lot of them, not all, but I feel like many of them have transitioned into the light to become spirit guides to further support humanity in this whole big process. So we are in a very interesting time right now.
Well, I guess that offers some sort of reprieve for people who have lost a loved one right now, that maybe those souls that have left during this time period are going to be the spirit guides of us now, or of those people now.
Yeah.
They're still living on in that way.
Yeah, for sure. And even many people I know, my friends who had some of their loved ones leave just in the last 2 weeks. So it's really uncanny, the timing, and it's not because of the virus at all. They passed for different reasons totally. Yeah. So it's just like this. It's a huge window of light. So there's a lot of the new energies coming in and it's pushing out all the old energies. So hence this what's happening now.
Every time, I feel like every week I hear of somebody's relative or somebody's coworker that has passed away.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, every time I hear it, there's a part of me that feels relieved that it isn't happening to me directly. And then I feel really sad because no, it isn't happening to me directly, but it is definitely happening directly to somebody else, and they're feeling that pain. And then it just reminds me of kind of what you said, like we're all just this one big organism.
Yeah, exactly. Organism is the word.
When you mentioned old blueprints, old patterns falling away, what are you referring to?
Okay. So humanity, along with the earth, we go through different phases of time. We call them the ages, or the zodiac ages. So it's about every 2,000 years. We go through different types of energies, different types of lessons in order to grow as a whole. So we are basically coming out from 2,000 years of the age of Pisces, which started roughly plus minus 100 years at the time of Christ. So that marked the start of the age of Pisces. So 2000 years have passed. So we are transitioning into the age of Aquarius. So hence all the confusion and the chaos, because we're moving from a whole different way of functioning and existing into something completely different. And the Pisces energy, which is to do a lot with the water element, emotions, and there's also a lot of illusions and denials and projections involved, because Pisces represents the energy of psychology. So moving out of that into Aquarius. So Aquarius is almost the opposite of Pisces, because Aquarius is about clarity, self-empowerment, total accountability, and also working as a whole in terms of humanity rather than the individual. Whereas in Pisces, there is the illusion that we are connected, but everyone is motivated by their own fears and selfish agenda. So we are learning right now, or kind of like being forced to let go of the old Pisces ways of perceiving the world and functioning, and trying to learn new ways of perceiving the world and functioning. Yeah. A big jump.
Yeah, that's a big jump. That reminds me of, I was listening to this one woman on YouTube. She has a channel called Chakra Boosters, I think Chakra Booster.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentioned something similar, that, you know, this is happening right now, partially because our old ways of doing things are not sustainable, are not fair for everyone. It's not sustainable for our earth. We're really destroying our earth. We're hurting each other. And these ways of being are not sustainable. And so those ways of being are breaking down right now. You know, I think you mentioned this today earlier in the New Moon Circle, you know, actions that are just for the sake of money or just for the sake of profit, those things will no longer be able to persevere. And it's really all about what's going to persevere right now is actions based on passion, actions based on
purpose.
Purpose. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think this is a very practical thing that everyone should know a little bit. So the old ways of doing things is very much based on survivalism. So and it has become so widely accepted as the so-called norm from those days, because everyone comes from that place of, oh, I need to survive. And I would do anything in order to survive. So this includes like sacrificing integrity or sacrificing authenticity, and even sacrificing passion. So all that was sacrificed in the name of surviving in order to make a profit. So these were the old ways of functioning. So what happens when we sacrifice all these things: passion, authenticity, integrity, and even serving a purpose? When all these are sacrificed, you find that the things that we do has no energy around behind it. It is not motivated by anything except from that fear, because survivalism comes from fear. The fear that, what if I cannot survive and I die? Therefore, in order for me to survive, I need to take advantage of my environment, or worse still, take advantage of the people in the world. So, which on the surface might seem, a lot of people might think, oh, what's wrong with that? But here is the bigger issue that we have not seen in the last 2,000 years, because we've all been covered by this veil of denial. What we do unto others is the same thing as we are also doing to ourselves. And not because of some moralistic values, or there's no moral high ground here, but because if you look at the earth, if you think about it, it's not that big of a space. It's finite, and therefore we are truly one body. We can't pretend like certain people don't exist, certain countries are not real, because, and especially with we're all there, and there's just really limited land, and everyone is connected whether we like it or not. So what we do to other people will affect the collective, and therefore what affects the collective obviously will also affect us in the near future. So the last 2,000 years, so Pisces talks about that denial of not willing to see that whatever we put out into the world is affecting everyone and therefore affects me as well. So all these old illusions are also crumbling. So like we call it like spiritually, like I don't know if I can say this, but shit is hitting the fan. So everyone's like, oh shit, now I can't escape anymore. I can't pretend that it's not affecting me or it's not about me. It is about me. It is about everyone, every individual person, and what they put out into the world, because collectively it has manifested into this virus today that we really can't escape. So this virus is really teaching us a lot of things if we observe what it does. Like for example, it's now like it travels very fast, very easily through the air. It's really again trying to illustrate to us there is no real separation between human to human. Just like that, you are connected. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also why it's focusing on the lungs, because people don't breathe. So that itself is a whole study on the lungs and the breath. For example, um, when we are not speaking our truth, we actually don't take full breaths. So imagine if we build our whole career or lifetime with not being fully authentic and not being fully truthful. So most people don't really take full deep breaths, not in the last 20 years or 30 years at least, because they're not living as their true self. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like the same thing when we're doing yoga. If we're not fully present, not fully in our body, it will not open up. Same thing with our lives today, the lives that we have built that are not fully authentic. So we're not fully taking in all those experiences because we know that part of it is it's not really us. It's not our truth. Yeah, so that's why the breath and the lungs are the first place to be really, really affected, because it wants to draw our attention to this. So that's how I see it. I hope it makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Ah.
I actually was just thinking about how I used to be a registered nurse
Mm.
um, after college, and I I mean nursing is it's a great
Mhm.
profession, but I didn't go into it for the right reasons. I just went into nursing because it kind of ran in my
Mm.
family, and um, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, well, this seems like a good, secure, well-paying job. And so I went to school. It took several
Mhm.
years. I took the NCLEX. I got my first job. And the whole time I was doing that, I always kind of felt in my
Mm.
heart that I was like fighting against myself. I felt like a salmon swimming upstream.
Mhm.
Like I was really struggling and going against like what I actually wanted. Even I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew it
It's not
wasn't
that.
that, but I
Yeah.
just kept going. I didn't know what else to do. And I was like, no, this is a good job. Just do it.
Mm.
It pays well and I'll be helping people. And I was trying to rationalize my way into it. And after 9 months of being a
Mhm.
nurse, I was so miserable. I would cry on my way to work. I would cry after work. I was so stressed out. And I was stressed out because of the job, but I was more really truly stressed because I knew that it wasn't the right path for me.
Mm.
And I felt so out of line with myself. And after 9 months, I just quit and I was like, I'm going to India to live in an ashram and study yoga. I'm out of
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And I was,
That's awesome.
I was so
Yeah,
happy.
that's awesome. And that this is literally the things that we have to go through in order to find our path and our destiny. A lot of people, like, they study astrology and whatnot, trying to find that answer. But the true answers come from going through all these things, making choices, and really trying it out, and until we know for sure that yeah, this is not what we want, and then move on to the next thing, and keep trying it out. So that's finding your purpose for you.
took a lot of suffering, but it happened.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, kind of just trying things out and seeing how they
Mm.
feel. I was reading this book, Everyday Tarot,
Mm.
and she's she's awesome. She's this tarot reader, and she has a podcast and a book and her own deck, and she talks about how a lot of people comment on her being a really soul driven
Mm-hmm.
person. And she says that it's really just about like trying things out and then just seeing how they resonate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, do I want to do this? I'll try it. Oh, actually, I don't feel good when I do
Yeah.
that. Let's try something else. And
Exactly.
it's just trying out and letting your feelings kind of guide
Yeah.
you in the right direction.
Yeah. That is exactly it. Uh, if I would add one small thing to that, it's also like
Mhm.
sometimes there are certain things that we may not like it at first, but our gut feeling tells us, oh, I need to push through this because this is what I need. It may not be what I want, but it's what I need. And so sometimes that happens as well, but most of the time, we kind of know after we try something that, okay, do I want to continue further doing this or not? Yeah. So I guess that's part of the fun as well. Yeah. Ex-
The fun and confusion.
Exploration and uh, yeah,
Exploration,
and
yeah.
really we will never know until we try. And like I always tell my students now, 15 years ago, um, I, I I couldn't imagine speaking to a crowd, and that was like my biggest fear, public speaking. And I had no training in that, and yeah, it was quite horrific. The first about it took me about 2 years of constant practice to kind of accept that role. So that was one of the things that I find that it's not what I would love to do back then, but I knew that I needed to do it. And of course, back then I didn't know why I needed to do it, but now in hindsight, of course, thank God I did it because if not, would not be able to fulfill this part of my purpose and meet all these wonderful people and do all this wonderful stuff and travel the world and whatnot. Yeah.
That's a really important point that you just made because, okay, so
Mm.
how can we tell the difference between, okay, I don't like this and it's not good for me and it's not aligned
Mm.
with me, and I don't like this, but I know I should do it because it's going to help me and it'll help me to grow
Yeah. I
down the
guess
road.
we just have to sit down in a quiet place and ask ourselves, am I avoiding this because of a fear, or is it because it truly does not make sense to me or does not resonate with me at all? So we have to weigh both sides. Is it am I not wanting to do this out of fear, or is it because it truly does not resonate with me? So I guess we have to just sit in that feeling and see what arises. And again, it comes with practice. The more we practice tuning into our feelings, our intuition, normally the clearer it becomes. It's like a muscle, I guess. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. So you mentioned that we're moving out of this 2000-year long age of
Mm.
Pisces and moving into the age of
Yeah.
Aquarius,
Yeah.
right? So do you think that our purpose here in this world is to evolve to like higher and higher levels of consciousness?
Yes. Uh, mm.
Yes.
However, higher consciousness it manifests differently for every individual. It's something like every person on that is incarnated on Earth has something different and something beautiful to bring to share with the rest of humanity as our planet. So that is what destiny is all about. So we won't know until we go and discover our own individual destinies and what we can offer and contribute to humanity. So the age of Aquarius is truly about each individual's uniqueness, but brought out to serve the collective. Yeah. So Aquarius is that. Whereas in the age of Pisces, the last 2,000 years, the energy or the blueprints was about learning to basically learning to um, pay attention to your own intuition, and also to realize that how do I say this? To realize that divinity, or to realize to God or goddess is not out there as believed by most people. They think like, like the universe or the divine is out there, but actually it's not. It is within. So that was the big lesson from Pisces. If I could sum up 2,000 years worth of learning and journey into one, very gross summary, that would be it. Because to get out of the illusion that um, how do you say, that the divine savior is out there. And I guess the bad news for the age of Pisces is that no one's going to come to save us. We have to learn to become self-empowered, and just really stepping out of the victim energy. And therefore, we won't need anyone to save us, because we can start, co-creating with our environment, with the universe, and shape how we want this world to be, and not wait for things to happen. So I guess Aquarius is a more proactive energy, and also a more responsible energy, really taking into accountability our own actions and feelings, and what type of energies we are putting out into the world. Yeah.
So you mentioned finding our destiny. How does one go about finding that?
Well, there are a few ways to start. Something as simple as knowing who you are. For example, what are your likes and dislikes? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What really makes you excited or really curious? So I would say follow the excitement, because that will lead us to something. So that is how we start to tune into our inner compass, or the inner intuition, to follow your curiosity and follow your excitement. And eventually, after trying out many different things, you will find one or two. It starts to narrow down, and until you find a few things, and you start working on it, and from there you will see which one is your true passion. So passion doesn't come overnight; it comes through. But when you start connecting with certain actions or certain topics, and you start to become a little bit good at it, that's when the passion will just explode, and it will be there. And then you start to align yourself with certain paths, and the path will further open up. So that will be a good starting point. Your likes and dislikes, your strengths and weaknesses. A lot of times when people come to me, what they are really hoping to get is like a map that tells them, okay, you just do this, step one, step two, step three, and then destiny will happen, which is never the case. So I often ask them, why do you need a map? So what I've learned from people is that we often have a fear of making choices. I think it boils down to that, the fear of making choices for ourselves. And often that fear is because of what will others think, or people might laugh at me if I do something out of the norm, or if I look silly. So that is one of the main barriers. And the other one is just, I guess, the general fear of making wrong decisions, which is such a paradox, because you can't really make wrong decisions, because everything that you do, it teaches you something anyway. So it also boils down ultimately to the fear of being responsible for our decisions. So that's one of the biggest breakthroughs that people need to have first, before they can truly find that path of destiny. The saying, fortune favors the bold, is quite true in that sense, because if we don't have the courage to push through our own fears and our mind limitations, and no doors are going to open, no path is going to be opened up from that. So people are looking for reassurance, but it will. There's no reassurance. You just have to go and try it out. For you just have to fly to India and then see what happens.
Do you think that the thing that people are passionate about should be the thing that earns them a living?
Yes and no. Yes and no. So finding our passion is the first big step. So then the real test begins after that, actually. Uh-oh. So like many people have found their passion and they're very good at something. So the deeper issues will start to come out. Like, for example, do you feel you are worth your craft or not? So the unworthiness and sometimes scarcity will come in. So all that deeper self perception and self limitations will start to come out through the the work that we do. Yeah. So that is a deeper layer of what we call self discovery and self transformation to become more and more empowered. So different people have different challenges. We call it the karmic lessons. So these are the big lessons that we are here in this in our respective lifetimes to really look into it and gradually master them one by one.
So if somebody has the challenge of feeling
Hmm.
unworthy, how how do they go about addressing and releasing that?
Yeah, so unworthiness is quite a deep journey. So, like nowadays, you can get help from like other healers or even like consultants or even like counselors, to help you work through that. So that I find that is one of um, the most effective ways. Of course, you can do it alone as well, but it will probably take more work and a slightly longer time. So unworthiness. It's like often no matter how good our work is, our craft, how good we are in our craft, sometimes we just don't allow ourselves to see it because of that underlying unworthiness. And if we go through the what we call the normal way, so we have to keep repeating um, the same mistakes many times until we one day realize, oh, I'm worth more than this. And then and the moment we understand that, everything will change. This reminds me of one experience I did have that was almost overnight. So when I was younger, I always felt that life was unfair, and even though I was giving my best, but I was like not it, it it wasn't a fair exchange. I wasn't getting paid what I felt I was worth. And one day I woke up and I realized, oh, it's because I never asked. I didn't decide my worth, and I didn't tell people what I felt I was worth. And therefore, I waited for other people to give me a sense of worth. So that was when the problem was. So I was waiting for approval. Yeah. So when that clicked, like I felt like in that 1 week everything changed. And of course, like all change will come with certain form of discomfort, and some people will not be happy about it. A few people might be offended, but that's all part of the teething process. And once we get through all that, the purification, the next level of playing field opens up. And yeah, so that's one of the things that I do try to teach a lot of my students as well. You have to discover your worth. If not, other people will decide for you. And when other people decide for you, it's always below your true value.
That's I relate to that a lot. Just as a yoga
Mm.
teacher, I've been teaching for like a decade, and I've been teaching at the same place for several places
Mm.
for several years, and I've only asked for a raise once, no,
Mm.
maybe twice. And inflation is real,
Yeah,
so I should
yeah,
really be asking for more as I gain more and more
for
experience. And
sure.
I know that it's because I need to come to terms with like the amount of value that I
Yeah,
offer
yeah.
people.
And I mean, this applies to every single person with any job they're doing. We often don't see the experience that has grown, and we don't see how what we are giving. Even though on the surface it might look like we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it better with more depth, with more energy behind it. So I find one good way is to like get feedback from like your regular clients, or like for me, my regular students, and ask them what has changed. Has things really improved, and what has improved? So we need to allow ourselves these opportunities to see the good that we are doing. Of course, in the meantime, we will also discover like some of the things that we can improve upon even better. It really up our worth anyway. So it's really a win-win situation. So I find we need to find tangible results for ourselves to acknowledge. Then maybe we will start to believe, I'm not too bad. I'm doing quite good work, and then we can go back into that sense of worth, because we also don't want our sense of worth to be unrealistic and overly inflated. Like yeah, it could swing the other way to say, oh, I'm like this good and that good, but actually we're not creating results that we imagine in our head as well. So getting feedback is a very practical way to get a balanced gauge on how much we are offering. Are we offering too much? Which I find, especially in the new age, with a lot of healers, even tarot readers, and especially yoga teachers, they are offering too much, and they're not receiving the energy exchange that keeps that balance. So it really depletes their life force, because there's no that reciprocation, so that the balance is not there. Yeah.
Boo, 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 boo. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll continue our conversation with Sherwin on the next episode, so stay tuned. He's going to guide us through a super powerful grounding meditation at the end of the next episode, which I'm really excited to share with you. If you can't wait until then, I've made it available on my Patreon page, so you can head on over to patreon.com/rainbowsarecircles if you'd like to have a listen. All of Sherwin's information can be found in the episode show notes. Make sure you subscribe to the show if you'd like to get the latest episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast so it can reach even more listeners. Until next time, I'm wishing you a magical day. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Wow, 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 wow. Rainbows are circles.